ultimately, it's up to you.
I was having a build-up of shows that I'd created and published, but I hadn't got a chance to get them on the various platforms, and I wanted to have them on 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. I think there's other content creators out there that are struggling to keep up with getting their uploads done, and so I want to recommend them to my good friend Jerry. Jerry has done an excellent job helping me with my podcast and catching up on things I was behind on.
Sometimes when you upload a video, there can be errors, and that's the stuff I don't want content creators such as yourself to go through. I want to help you. I upload it to your platform. I upload clips to media channels in a fast and efficient manner. I serve freedom fighters. I take weight off their shoulders so they can focus on their content creation. It takes a while to just get a clip uploaded, and sometimes you don't want to worry about that stuff. I take this to heart, and I help the people that care for freedom.
Hello, this is Chris Jansen. Welcome to the End Evil podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here, the One Great Work Warriors, with another episode and another great topic. This is going to be a great discussion. It's going to go, who knows where this one's going to go, because as I was telling people before we went live, I've been all over the map thinking about this one, but I think it's such an important topic and a great topic. So welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you're here. And the topic that we're going to be getting into is mediocrity as the new standard. And I was the one who brought this before the group to talk about. And the reason I brought this up is because at the time I was talking to somebody who had children in school, and it was really fascinating to me because I found out that if they participated in any of the sports or any of the activities, they all got participation awards across the board. Didn't matter what they did, they all got scored. There was not really any scoring or anything. It was just basically you show up, and no matter what you did, you got a participation award. There was no gold or silver, in the bronze kind of thing. It was all, everybody got the same award. And it just got me thinking that, back in my day, you strived to excel in whatever, if you wanted to win a trophy back in the day. At least when I was in school, that was a big deal. If you were participating in any of these sports or activities and there was trophies, you really wanted to win that. They made you excel. It made you strive and excel towards it because you wanted to win that, and it just made you try so much harder. And I just wondered, it just got me thinking, giving participation awards across the board, is that maybe the start of the downfall, for a lack of a better word, to this mediocrity as being what everybody is used to accepting and what's going on. So that's kind of where my head was at when I brought this topic up. So I'm really excited to hear what all the warriors here have to say about this. So I'm going to pass it to you, Brandon, if you want to build off of what I said.
Yeah, thank you for that. And unfortunately, I have experienced this because I have been umpiring fast pitch girls softball for 18 years. Have umpired all over the country, and this is a recent trend that I've seen in the past 3 to 5 years. And the way that the tournaments are kind of structured up is, let's say you have about 16 teams, you may get like two pool play games, 2 or 3 pool play games, and then you'll play. You may have some teams that go undefeated, like 2-0. You may have some teams that go 1-1, and then of course you're gonna have some teams who don't win it at all. But when it comes down to like bracketing the teams, this is where it gets fucked up because they'll have a gold bracket and then I just call it a shitty bracket, because the gold bracket are for the teams, who won, who are good, who are skilled. Then you have a shitty bracket where it's the teams who may not be as skilled. They may not be as competitive, which isn't a bad thing. But when it comes down to it, if you're in a shitty bracket and you make it to that last game, you still get rings, or you still get trophies, or you still get a t-shirt. You actually get the same item that the first place team gets, who may not have even lost a game. And this has been in like in the back of my mind. It's been on my conscience because I brought it up to the head umpire, and I'm actually going to bring this up to the two individuals who host the tournaments. And personally, I don't think we should be rewarding these kids for not being competitive, for not wanting to get better, because that's the mentality, is they are actually being rewarded for being terrible. And hell, let's be honest, a lot of those teams are just flat out terrible. I understand that their parents may not have the money, to get them lessons, but then too, a lot of the parents don't go out there and actually work, help with the child. They don't go out there and try to coach. They don't go out there to try to teach them. And I played sports a lot when I was younger. I was very competitive, and you only got rewarded if you came in first or second place. And the way I see these parents acting is quite frightening, because I would be embarrassed as a parent if I had a child, who was, like getting rewarded, because it doesn't encourage them to get better. It doesn't encourage them to hone, like on their skills. It doesn't really encourage them to work as a team, because they know that it doesn't matter which bracket they get placed in, they are going to get that cheap fake ass ring, but it, it they can show it off to their friends. The parents can take pictures of it and say, hey, my child won a tournament, giving off this illusion that your child won, but actually they were the best of the shitty teams. And I mean, like, that's just how I call it. And some people have gotten mad, at me for calling them, the shitty bracket, but it's the truth. It's the truth. If your team is good, and if you work hard, and you're beating everyone else, then if you put in the time and the effort to hone on your skill, if your team is getting thrashed like 0 to 20, and you get put in a shitty bracket, so you were playing other shitty teams, I don't see that as something to brag about. I honestly don't, because it it loses the integrity of the game. It loses, like the the life skills of competition and working as a team. So like, what are we actually trying to encourage these kids to do? Just be average, just be shitty? And that's what we kind of see in society, is we see people putting out shitty work. We see people building shitty things because they're just expecting to get rewarded with that paycheck. So I'm going to pass it on to Jerry. I've said what I've had to say for now. So Jerry.
Yeah, thanks for warming this discussion up, Brandon and Crip. Thanks for the intro. You did amazing. So,
Thank you.
just to follow back up on what you said, Brandon, mediocrity is the new standard. I can't disagree with that. And just that's a crazy story. I mean, yes, you should show up, you should participate. And of course, it doesn't mean everybody's going to give it their all, but it's encouraged. Like, people that are great will encourage you to do your best. And that's why they're great, first of all. And someone mediocre will say, nah, just show up and that's it. Like, just think about what I'm going to do afterwards. Don't focus. Don't pay attention. Don't put in any effort. Don't build any skills. Just waste my time. And that's the wrong kind of mentality. That's the mediocre mentality. And a good book that came to mind was Mindset by Carol Dweck. And it mentions how parents reward, or they tell their kids, oh, you're great. Like like you were saying, Brandon, like if my kid were to strike out 3 times and I tell him like, oh yeah, you did good, that's a lie. And it's just the way, we were brought up. This is the way, generation after generation, parents teach their kids that, they get rewarded for being mediocre. And that's something that has to change. So I'll pass it to Jim.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say I've witnessed this with my kids in sports and that. And my daughter's in track, and she's good, and she's got quite a few medals in that. And but I've seen that with the other kids that that they all get like these medals and the participation stuff, and so it's definitely a real thing. I've noticed it with also kind of the stuff with the schoolwork, like, and the kids don't learn script anymore. I that's kind of an interesting thing. Like they I like the kids in the honor society don't even know basic math. You know, they all use calculators now. Um, but yeah, coming from that, another thing that came to mind was like I know like a lot of guys who like over the years when it comes to using tools, like used to like craftsman tools used to be like if it broke, you could return it and get a new one, like even if it was like 15 or 20 years old and shit like that. But anyway, I'm trying to talk about Harbor Freight and how there's just all these like piece of shit cheap tools now, and like the integrity of stuff, like it's not there anymore. Like the quality, and even though Harbor Freight's like logo is quality tools, lowest prices, but it's not quality. It's mediocre shit. But that's just kind of a way society's gone, like where the quality of products isn't there anymore, and you everyone knows that, and like you could see that in so many ways. Another thing that came to mind was cars. Like back when I was a kid, my parents used to be able to rattle off, "Oh, that's a '68 Chevy or whatever model it was," and like cars were very distinctive and well built, and like people were proud of them and all that. And now they're all just like they all look the same. They're all like mediocre looking. Even like the expensive ones aren't even that cool looking, you know? Like a so there's like the Porsche, like Cayenne, like these kind of SUVs. They just look like a Hyundai to me, you know? Like if they were side by side, stuff like that. Their cars aren't what they used to be. It's just something that came to mind, and you could say the same thing about architecture. You know, back in the past, how they used to build these like amazing cathedrals and stuff, and over the last more recent times, but you know, the architecture just isn't anywhere near that level. You know, so what happened there? You know, but all right, pass it over to Chris.
Thanks, Jim. Oh man, you got my mind going on a lot of things. I got to
Me
go
too.
on a trip a few years ago where I did go get to see southern France, Derek. I was loving it out there, and then we actually went to Paris and London, and I was looking forward to checking out the buildings because everybody told me, you know, the buildings are pretty amazing there. And sure enough, like everywhere you go, there's nothing but like stone and granite and rock. Like stuff is carved out. You know, it's like those whole cities are built like solid stone, wall to wall. You know what I mean? And everyone, if you look close, there's like intricate carvings. Even like it's just a bank or something, and there'll be like gargoyles inside of it and stuff. And then you come back here in California, and it's like these Cracker Jack houses, right? It's like pretty cheesy when you think about the way things have been built through different times, especially some of these ancient architecture that show up. We don't even know how the hell they built it. And it's still here, and we can't even make stuff last like a couple generations. It's pretty sad. And so being a carpenter, I got to say, like over the years, the skill level, like you were saying, super mediocre, if not lower than mediocre, and getting worse because what we keep doing in every is not just carpentry. It's not just building trades. This is in school. This is in entertainment. This is in health. The way we treat our bodies. There's a degradation that's been going on for quite some time. And the more important question is, why is this happening? Right. And but before I get on to that why, I just want to tell you a quick story of something I experienced recently. And you know, I think everybody else has probably experienced this too. I was sharing this house with my roommate. I come around the corner, running my errand, and I hear she's on the phone, and she's saying, "Operator, operator, give me customer service representative, customer service representative." So, she's yelling through the phone over and over, "Operator, operator," because you get on these stupid freaking repeating things. It's like, "If you'd like to do this, please enter all your numbers again. Oh, we'd like to know," and you're there, you're yelling, you're just pushing zero. Give me a fucking person, and there used to be a time in history when customer service was actually caring about the person and trying to service their needs. Now they give you an answering machine that says, "We'd like to care about your needs, but we really don't." Please push 1, 2, 3 if you would like to hold longer and get a stick shoved up your ass, because that's what we're going to do. And people just are putting up with it. People are not fighting back enough to put a dent in their businesses. They have monopolies. So, and then in person, since COVID, this thing has gotten like 4 times worse. Just the normal customer service you used to be able to expect in a store went to shit after they started telling people, "You're not wearing a mask? Have you put bacterial soap on your hands?" Like whenever that dynamic changed, the whole dynamic of customer service changed, where because you're the customer, no longer are you honored for being customer, and no longer are you the most important thing. Now, that shifted the mental dynamic. And that's just one little aspect. What's more important is the way it bleeds into our mental way of looking at the world and our systems. But I'll save that for a little later and pass it on to Derek.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yeah, appreciate everyone's points. And being out here in France, walking in ancient past romantic times of, like you mentioned, these master builders that really took a lot of care and artistic value into those crafts. And I feel like a lot of those were also dedications to the divine feminine. You just look at the architecture, right? All those beautiful curves and voluptuous, corners and facades and all that stuff. But even today, I'm out here next to Marseille, and people are trying to cut corners just as much as folks, across seas over there with y'all. And it really devaluates a lot of stuff. And there's so many things that have been watered down because of things that have been so, blatantly monetized. Yet people don't, take the time to step back and realize that, holy shit, we're spinning the wheel so fast in the rat race that, we're raping and pillaging Mother Earth already. And, you diminuate that from the psychological aspect of how people have been degraded in their lifetime as well. And over how many centuries, even heirloom seeds of fruits and vegetables have been degraded. You take it from 100 years ago, like what was the nutritional value of a strawberry as it is today, and how many cross hybrids and all that stuff, just because of a monetary motivation. And that's just one aspect of so many other things that play on the psyche of this mundane, mediocre miasma. And I've been so flippin' sick of it that I really just if y'all caught me yesterday, I was vitriolic and very cathartic, and just like looking at a lot of fucking shit that you see slathered on the fucking internet. The water's been muddied up so fucking hard. Everyone's got a fucking microphone. They can say whatever the fuck they want to now because things are so cheap, and there's all these other platforms where everyone can say and stand on whatever fucking digital soapbox and gain support and have some fake ass fucking validity because they got subscribers and followers on TikTok and all this fucking bullshit that they can just, keep lip servicing whatever the fuck they're running off of. And a lot of these people are running off of ostensible information and just, the mediocre. All right, let's take it from the macro to the micro. Over how many centuries, what has been diminuted from good quality to shitty, mediocre quality. We've all been talking about, just like the beauty of life that we perceive through architecture, through other different means of expressing consciousness in the arts of life and all this stuff, because it's been subsidized to some fucking monetary motivation, like I mentioned. But yeah, like I mentioned in other videos, there's babies having babies and people giving birth to children off of not a fully developed consciousness that's fucking mediocre, average, whatever the fuck. It's going to perpetuate the same fucking cycle generation after generation, especially when we have institutions that have been manipulated the fuck over and compromised, as we've mentioned in other videos. We're weaving certain tapestries into these videos that we create and these topics that we bring up, right, fellas? And so this ties into what we've mentioned before, and so it leads to a lot of mediocrity. And yeah, we can get into the whole so many people are overly sensitized, and parents got to make their children feel validated in any kind of fucking error that they make and all this stuff. And it's a disservice to a lot of things, to a lot of levels, and even in whatever truth speaking community, as Mark Passio brought up in the recent video that Brandon, you shared. I forget the conference, but oh yeah, the Great Reset, which is where people need to be at to really fucking raise the standard of human consciousness and the true Earth timeline. And people talking about 5D and this and that, and make America great again, when people lack fucking greatness within themselves. So we're trying to evoke leveling the fuck up for fucking real in this video. Get the fuck over this mediocre fucking bullshit. And you have to really activate that shit within your heart first and fucking foremost. As we mentioned in, the one, what is the great work was what we're trying to fucking do, right? So, Rick, what's cracking, man? We had a great chat. Trying to like have, above mediocre relationships within yourself and with other people, right? So, yeah. Sorry for rambling on, but yeah.
No, you guys make great points, and as I was saying at the beginning, I started my mindset when this topic I brought it forward was at the schooling and the trophies and stuff. But I quickly, the more I thought about it, is that over time we have all, we've all slowly got used to mediocre everything. Like when you think about it, that's what I started to realize. Like, and you guys make great points. All you just kind of touched on it, Jim. Ollie is Chris, Ollie is, Brandon, you guys all touched on it in some way that I was thinking about, because we have become acclimatized, I call it, to this mediocrity, and you can pick your poison where it's become mediocre. And I just was writing down a few things that I was thinking about. What's in my case for healthcare, it was huge. I remember when I was 17 years old, the difference from healthcare from then to where I am now is huge compared how much worse it's gotten. It's just gotten so much worse in every aspect. Every area that I can, in my experience, has gotten worse. And so, and that's only one area. And then I think of all the other areas, like our food quality, as you guys were saying, mediocre. It's getting worse. Our health, mediocre. Now, and it's just the truth. If you're overweight, this is a great thing. Like it's not good. I mean, that's the problem. But you have people saying like this whole positivity thing, and I think that's so dangerous when you lie like that. And I'm just being honest. I know it's going to upset some people, but that's just the truth. And you can't go around just kind of saying that everything is great when it's not. And I just think of all the things. I think of the dating scene. I think of all these dating apps. It's made dating mediocre. Marriage now, people are getting married. If it doesn't work out, a year later they're divorced and they're getting married again. It's become mediocre. And communication, I think, is another one. In-person communication has become mediocre. And tech, I guess, is the blame for a lot of that. It's got its good points. It's helping us do this. But I noticed that in-person communication, I notice it drastically because I like to talk to people in person. And I think that's becoming mediocre. So, you name it. If anyone thinks about any topic, you're going to see that's become mediocre. And Jim brought up with our products. I was thinking of that today, actually. Like, we're so accustomed to just buying cheap products. If they break in 6 months or a year, well, we'll go buy another one. We'll go to the dollar store, we'll go to Walmart, buy the cheap product, and we've just become so used to just the bare minimum. So that's where my mind is at. And sorry to ramble again, but if anyone wants to build off of that, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
think about it, and pick your poison, and you're going to find it's mediocre.
One of the words that's synonymous with being mediocre is being average. So if we take, people's behaviors, which are mediocre, for the average person, if their behaviors and actions and the output is mediocre, then obviously they're taking in mediocre, you know, information. And that's the problem with people is they don't want to push themselves. They don't want to be great. They don't want to explore the mental capacities. They want to go halfway up the mountain and stay in the comfort zone. They don't want to climb to the top, keep pushing themselves, striving to do great, challenge yourself. That's what people don't want to do. And three things that I think have led to this main problem is people becoming, average, and the social engineers being able to put out these mind viruses, like these forms of mediocre thinking to get people to pretty much destabilize themselves and to become more weaker and to sacrifice their principles is the radio in the early 1900s, because that's what the average person was using to take in information, and that had a lot of influence. And of course, the one device that's raised more children than the Catholic Church, the television influenced so many minds to just be average. I'm sure you all can remember Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, You Are Not the Father, reality TV shows. You had MTV, all the sports, all of that garbage, which got people to change and degrade their way of life, degrade their way of thinking, degrade their principles, degrade their morality. And then, of course, you had the original shorts, which the news was the first original media that put out shorts. Because if you can't focus, how can you be great? If you can't, you know, if you can't focus, then how can you achieve a goal? So if you destabilize one's ability to focus and you hit them up with so much information with a sensory overload, like the news is always changing stories every minute or two. So if people can't focus, then you degrade their ability to actually, gain clarity, to gain meaning. And all of these things are needed in order for you to be great at no matter what you do. To be great requires focus. It requires willpower. It requires dedication. It requires courage. It requires care. But you see, if you're always, jumping from topic to topic or taking in, a little bit of information here and you're all over the place and you're scatterbrained, you're not going to be great. You're not going to, want to, have that focus. And then now, of course, everyone's doing this. Everyone's damn near making out with their smartphones, looking down. That right there has become the average thing to do. And you see a lot of mediocre people trying to use their smartphones to pretty much do everything. And I'm not saying, they don't have a significance. And I'm not saying, you can't take in some information, but when it actually comes to truly educating yourself the correct way, the smartphone is not the way to do it. It's not. The screen too small, it like you're not going to take in all the information. Sometimes you may have to watch things two or three times. You need a large screen, with the right hell amount of pixels. If you're going to research stuff, you don't want to do it on a phone. You don't want to read a book on the phone. You don't want to watch a 2-hour documentary on the phone. There are better devices, out there that's going to make it more easier to educate yourself. And you still see people literally looking down, making love, hugging their phone. It's almost like they want to assimilate with it. And we see more and more content creators, putting out garbage, putting out shorts, putting out TikTok videos, which they do have their purpose, but you're really not going to truly educate someone off 1 minute videos. You're not, because everyone's looking for likes, everyone's looking for views, everyone's trying to get that quick fix, that quick cash, because the more likes you get, the more comments, the more it gets pushed into the algorithms, then the more ad revenue that the influencer gets. So they are pushing toward the average, because that's what everyone's trying to do. Like, share, subscribe. You'll never hear me say those words because I don't give a fuck if you do any of that.
Mhm.
So, hell, I'll pass it on to whoever wants to take it.
I'll jump in there,
Yeah.
Brandon. Oh, were you going to say something, Jim?
No, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this thing's like mental, physical, and spiritual. And we didn't really define mediocre. I think people know what it means, but if you do look up the etymology, it basically comes from like medio. I can't remember the exact word, but it means medium, medius or mediocris, right? But it's the idea of the center, right? And in theory, like on the physical plane, there's an aspect of being human that, like, if you're in the middle of a crowd and there's an attack, you're going to be safe, right? If you're not an extremist in your like little society, there's a certain comfort in that you're not going to be the first one to get attacked, if you're not the extremist. Whereas you're the more extreme person in society, you're kind of more in danger of survival to a certain extent, just because of being human. So I understand the fear of being too different, sticking out too much, even though that's never been me. I've always been willing to be kind of the far out guy. I'm all right with that. And I think, the more we come to know ourselves, the more we become okay with what we're different. And we recognize those as being our powerful allies, the things about us that make us different. But I am recognizing why people have a fear of sticking out from the crowd. That's part of our survival instinct as humans. But on the physical level, becoming delicate and soft is in no way good for survival. And being a male and growing up in kind of a tough neighborhood, bad side of neighborhood, I was outside playing a lot. And when we'd fall on the concrete, we'd fall on the asphalt, you'd get cut, And so I took lumps when I was a kid. We had like little crews of gangs and stuff, we would call ourselves. And we would like, you had to climb this tree and jump over here to this one. And, sometimes someone would fall and get all bloodied up. And, we'd run home, but we healed and we learned how to use our body and like riding bikes, all that shit. I think what I noticed over the years in that same apartment complex where I grew up, less and less kids were playing outside. So over time, I'm seeing like kids getting more and more delicate and soft, and like being around other males, I recognize a lot of guys never had the opportunity to really get their hands dirty and to get in the mud and dig with the shovel all day, feel like what it's like to do labor for 8 hours. A lot of men have never even really felt that in their adult life. And so what's going to happen when there's an emergency, or the power goes out or the water goes cold? I started getting interested in cold water immersion just for that reason. I was like, well, what if the power stops and I have to take cold showers? This is going to be pretty extreme. So I started learning to take cold showers. And then, later discovering like Wim Hof, I've learned that pushing your body a little bit is a really good thing. It makes you feel good. And it's actually good for your skin. Your skin's like an organ that needs to be stretched. And people have grown so accustomed to a certain temperature. Everything always has to, and whether it's a summer or the winter, you go in the gas station or the store and you hear someone say, "It's too hot, it's too cold." Or they look outside and they're afraid to go outside. It's like, dude, this is the world we live in. You know what I mean? This is a place we have to be. And then not only that, like, when in history have human ever reached the maximum capability of the human body? And they said like, oh, no more Olympics, that's as high as we can jump. That's as far as we can spit. Like there's no limit to what the human body can actually do. We have never found it. And yet, like the most largest part of our population are happy to just let their body sort of degrade into a bowl of jello, and so that's the physical flame. And then medicine, just popping a pill sounds so much better. Look at those commercials. They're like running to go get on their canoe ride at the waterfall. And the voice is like, are you having trouble with how you shit? Like maybe you need to take this pill so you could join your friends out here running on the kayak with the fucking canoe, right? And it's not actually what people do, because most people don't do that. And even if they did, that was like a pretty lame ass river anyway. But the truth is that people are so happy to just, is there an easier solution or quicker? Can I just take a pill so I can get back to my, lame ass job and, repeat what I did yesterday? And then that all that repetition and waiting for the light and sitting at the corner and being dazed out, looking at the phones, it puts your mental state in a state of being kind of like submissive all the time, hitting submit on your phone. Submit. Yes, sir. Okay, boss. Okay, cop. Okay. We're constantly submitting all day long, and then we're turning to jello. So what's happening spiritually? What is our over self being? In the physical world, it's seeing this person going through these repetitive motions about things they don't really care about, and taking in stimulus from entertainment of other people's lives and adventures that they haven't ever actually lived. So they live them vicariously every night through the television, or yelling at your favorite sports hero that they're going to go out and do it, not you, And I know this isn't across the board. I do see amazing people and amazing things happening, but I'm just saying for 90% of us, we got to step it up on the mental and physical realm to even get to the place where we can think spiritually, because otherwise it's just base level consciousness trying to deal with health problems, basically, because you can't really get there if all you can feel is pain and frustration of your body and the need to shove more food in it to fill the void, or drink more, So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about on the subject. Who's next? Who's next?
Who next?
Jerry?
Derek, go ahead.
All right, folks. So yeah, just stemming off of what I kind of mentioned. So people can just run through the matrix, not even knowing it exists, and go through their lives, like walking the garden laid path or whatever people want to call it. And yeah, the American dream was not all it seems. And as George Carlin said, that yes, it is the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it, or whatever, however he conceived it. But so what is this natural cycle of life for people, really? We're just gonna sleep 8 hours, which is a third of one's life, and I'll get to that later. Go to school, go to in the school system. How fucking mediocre is that, right? We talked about education. Just get the partnership, get married, create, reproduce, consume, like they live, looking through the glasses, whatever. And so what is it? Why are we sleeping away a third of our lives? For me, that was one of the sparks that lit a fire up my ass and made me want to just, really take hold of my life. And how many people are actually taking hold of their lives and actually trying to progress towards being more of the causal factors of their lives instead of anything exterior from, outside of themselves. And that gets into natural law. That gets into not trying to be fucking governed and having all these fucking draconian rules and regulations thrown up against us institutionally or politically and all these other things. And for me, I realized that shit, I was living a pretty mediocre life. What the fuck am I doing? Exactly. Like, I was happily married and all this stuff, and I wanted to, have kids and this and that. And I was like, I want to teach my kid all this stuff. And like, wait, holy shit. I I completely stumped myself because I realized that, I had inklings about a good amount of stuff, and a lot of doubts about other things. And, just like, if I was to lean off of the entire education that I had throughout the totality of my life, I would think like, geez, like, what kind of life skills am I actually going to be able to, transfer that knowledge to my kid outside of my own personal experience, which of course I was going to infuse. And that counts so much more for any institutionalized fucking bullshit. And that's not to take away some of the good nuggets of things that have helped me and anyone else that have gone through the ringers of political public school systems or private or whatever, right? But people get indoctrinated into so many different other camps as well. Like, we haven't touched on religion, which we mentioned in another episode that we've done, which can lead people to a mediocre fucking life. Because again, it's another thing that is, drawing attention away from oneself and having like this external influence that is superseding one's own personal fucking sovereignty. And oh yeah, like, just wait another 2,000 years because Jesus is gonna come and save your ass from the fucking sins you were born into and all that other whatever the fuck. And however people want to, say that, and we're not here to Bible bash or whatever the fuck, but I see religion in beyond Christianity and Abrahamic and whatever the Islamic, they're like halfway hobbits on the way to true spirituality, and we'll include the New Cage movement in that as well, right? Because they got a lot of good stuff. They're drawing so many different good frequencies of universal laws, but they leave out some things. They lead people astray, and they water down a good amount of stuff. And this is what, muddying the waters has done. We're inundated by so much fucking mediocre fucking bullshit. And that's what I was kind of saying about everyone having, a stage to stand on and all this stuff. Like, there's a gazillion channels for people to tune into, and what are people actually paying attention to? You go on to the landscapes of YouTube or wherever, what are people's fucking attention is being drawn towards? Where are the million view videos talking and leading and directing people towards exactly, right? So for me, mediocrity and separating the greatness from the average fucking shit, it's like MJ to LaFlop lames and that kind of shit. And I don't know if you guys have seen like LeBron James being like put up on a fucking pedestal and this and that, but this stems into this whole push in the powers that wish they want to fucking be. They're on some mediocre shit. They themselves, ignorant mass motherfuckers, trying to circumvent natural law and shit. But they're trying to put certain people on pedestals, the people's fucking champions, right? And they're twisting so many rules to, do whatever. And you see people just buying into all this stuff, and it leads people to, like I said, LeBron James. Sorry if anyone doesn't follow basketball and that kind of stuff. I don't really myself, but I've kind of caught on to some of the rigmarole of some of this shit. Because, I like true, pure competition, but that is more of like a, when you're growing up as a kid, it should, people don't need to be making $1 million or whatever the fuck y'all be doing. Like, and people paying money into that. Of course, there's, like the media, television rights, and whatever the fuck to keep the bread and circus running since the Roman fucking times, right? God damn, what the fuck? Dude, they're taking our lions and turning them into fucking lambs. We have so many incredibly gifted athletes that are getting filtered through fucking professional sports. What the fuck are they doing? They're bypassing a proper education first and fucking foremost, and they're not even like, growing up and like spreading the wealth in a proper way, especially through the I MAGA nation, the true Mon I, stemming from the first I. But anyways, but there's other things that, just it's like separating the strong from the weak, and all these other things that just people are being, taken away from their true core essence. And to really bring it back for people individually, that will really lead them towards the path of greatness and out of the fucking mediocre miasma that we're kind of just led to believe. I mean, how many people kind of grew up? I'm going to finish with this real quick, because when I was young, I wasn't like this, like I kind of grew up thinking a little passive and looking at all the great works of things and like, wow, like how can these things are so amazing, right? And like, so think about art, music, Beethoven, what happened to those cats and this and that, and like trying to aspire to some true masters of ceremony. So, I felt like I could never be that good or this and that, and society kind of, again, puts people on these pedestals to make it seem like it's so unattainable. And that goes for, magazines where people are airbrushed and this and that. You see like the beauty and all that, cosmopolitan, and you can spread it across the fucking gambit of, what the mainstream media and propaganda are trying to, make people tune into, whatever, right? And yeah, there's a lot of mid-carded things that are, put up on, oh, look at this now, and that kind of stuff. So we kind of feel dwarfed by these, grandioso things, right? Which is a shame, because, we're not really taught or encouraged to be as large as that sometimes, or for the most part. So that can lead towards mediocrity. But anyways, I'm sorry if I went on too long, but who's next?
Well, I can talk if no one else wants to. But Jim, you already nodded your head, so if you got something to say. Oh, Jim, how you muted?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I was thinking about music, definitely. How like in the 60s and 70s and 50s, 60s, there was always like there's a whole bunch of new music and rock and roll and that, and then even the 80s had some original music, but ever since the 80s, I don't think there's really been like the music scene has been, and I'm not into like hip hop and stuff, but it's never, I don't think the music has been as great as it was. Like the 70s was phenomenal. Like the amount of bands that there were, that in the songwriters and all that, like that was like music is way more mediocre. And then when Derek had spoke about classical music, I mean that's really amazing to think about. Like, and what did it even take to make all those instruments? The quality and craftsmanship for that, and like to make a baby grand piano, you know, and then have 50 members of a band all, you know, perform one piece of music is phenomenal. And then, rock and roll, like it was only four guys with, some electric instruments, but they did some incredible stuff with that. And yeah, I probably shouldn't say this, but because I don't know enough about her, but Taylor Swift, I know she's like one of the most decorated, like got the most awards and stuff, but like I just wonder like how come I don't know any of her songs? Like, but she's like everyone loves her, and it's like I guess she's talented, but I don't know any of her songs. I just find that strange, like but maybe I should listen to her, like. But I just find that so strange that one of the most famous musicians, and I don't even know, like she doesn't have like a catchy song that if I walked into like a store and it was playing, I don't know it's her. I just think that's weird. Like that's mediocre. But um, I don't know. I just I think that mediocrity is desirable for most people as long as they can get by. that's kind of what, like, they're happy to achieve that. As long as they can make enough money and be safe and even get like a good retirement, and then maybe they'll die and realize, oh, I fucked up. I just like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. But because I do think we are, our souls come here for a greater purpose than to just like fall into the rat race and that. But like I go into some of these office buildings from time to time, delivering for Uber, and I'm like, I don't know, like I might sound weird, but judgmental, but I'm just like, I can't believe that this is what people do, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, this is what they do all day, and they're like, I could never do it. Like I could never put on a suit and go work in an office, like. But so many people, like around where I live, around New York, that's a big thing, like office jobs, and I just can't. Like I go in those places and I get such a weird feeling, like I get like spooked out, like that's reality, and I just couldn't imagine being that. But people, and I wouldn't think that they're like so happy about it themselves, but maybe some of them can make the best of it. But whatever. It's just that's definitely mediocre, but they're okay with it. I've seen that a lot, where people are just they seem to be okay with their mediocrity, but like you guys are saying, it's if you do try to like step out and do things that you really want to, you get to know yourself a lot better. So that's pretty much it. So the one thing I'll just say on the other end of it, I remember growing up always drinking like mediocre beer, like Coors Light and Budweiser. I drank Buds all day long, and then I knew some friends from England, and they told me that this American beer was like such shit, and I would like defend it. It was such mediocre beer, but over the years, and now that I stopped drinking, but towards the end there, I was drinking the good stuff. But beer did get better. If that's, I'll give it on that end. I'll just say, well, there's something that improved. I'll pass it along.
Yeah, what is that? Oh, sorry.
The beer, and sometimes I want it, like, because there's new beers. Like I was in a bar today delivering, and I was just like, oh, which one would I drink? But of course I'm not. But yeah, the beers look good now.
Yeah, but I don't think that does anything for the mass of society. Like doing better. Lots of new good beers. Probably just leads to more idle laziness.
Did you try that new non-alcoholic haziness?
Yeah, there you go.
Jim, you drink Buds, we smoke Buds.
Exactly.
But you brought up a good point, because it's easier to blend in, if you are mediocre. It's easier for you to mask yourself, but you don't draw any attention to you. How you can think inside the box. And I kind of equate being mediocre to collectivism, because the cult mentality, it's like Jim said, you got people who, who get comfortable in their office job, have to get comfortable doing what the average person is doing. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be great. They don't want to challenge themselves. And then another area that I see people being mediocre in is their research and their knowledge and their understanding. Hell, again, people want to stay in that comfort zone. People want to just stay halfway. People just want to stay in the realm of conspiracy. People just want to think that it's just a Federal Reserve. We can just put the right person in office to fix all of our problems. They don't want to go further deeper climb up that mountain into natural law, into shadow work, into learning about objective morality. And heavens forbid, they learn about real, true anarchy and occultism. And this is why we see, a lot of people getting, or a lot of these influencers just talking about the political stuff and they're getting all the views. You see people talking about flat earth. You see people talking about the man versus woman split. And you see people getting like 500,000 views because they're just talking about more useless hell freaking division. You still got people out there talking about, is the government going to release this information on aliens? People
Oh
love
yeah.
that stuff. How people eat that stuff up, but they don't want to go further to the point of, hey, maybe I should be taking responsibility. Hey, maybe I should be trying to fix my own trauma. And that's the thing is as long as you're willing to stay in that comfort zone, you'll never really change. You'll never really grow. And that's the thing is mediocre people don't want to grow. They're fine with just settling. They fine with being the way that they are. They're fine in that mindset. Why would they need to, get better? And that's the thing is the mediocre mindset is it's not my responsibility, it's someone else's because I'm not good enough. We talked about creating mediocre tools. I'm not good enough to to create have something good. I'm not good enough to build something better. I'm fine the way that I am because I'm still getting rewarded. I'm still getting my paycheck, and that's really what I care about. So really, mediocre people just care about getting that paycheck or getting that reward compared to true care of getting better and learning more about themselves. Learning more about the causal factors on why we are still held enslaved. And I find it hard in 2024 that people still haven't come across natural law. Like you got to be even below mediocre, if you're a influencer and you haven't, help come across the works of natural law. If you haven't come across the works of objective morality, I find it hard to believe that people haven't come across that because the mediocre person loves to stay ignorant, and that's the thing. As long as we stay ignorant, we'll stay enslaved. So I'll pass it on whoever wants to take it.
I'll build off on that. Man, hold on. Just waiting on the lag. All right. Yeah, geez, you guys are freaking hitting it home for me. Like, what I'm doing is I'm internalizing everything that's being said, and I'm putting the finger towards me because I'm that mediocre person. And I've been here for a year with you guys, but I think it's finally like I said, hitting home where it's like, man, that's my mind. That was my mindset. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. That's your guys' responsibility. You put the fucking work in. You do the live streams. I'll just be there fucking viewing. And that's bullshit, dude. I mean, we're at fucking war. And I'm at war with myself. And I'm fucking losing this fucking battle. And I got to do something about it. And it's not just say it, it's do it. And, I finally realized that. And I got to fucking buckle down, fucking teach objective morality under natural law, because that's what the fuck the solution is. And yeah, I mean, fuck that mediocre shit, because mediocre breeds mediocre people. Great people want to build other people up. It's not the other way around. So people talking shit about other people that are great, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'll pass it to Chris.
Thanks, Jerry. I like that enthusiasm. I think it's going to be a great year for you with that attitude. Go out and get them. And that's part of the thing is it takes that extra attitude and push. Like imagine shooting an arrow even on your stupid video game from your stupid couch. You still have to aim higher than the target, to account for the distance between you and the target. So like that's part of what we're not really encouraging and introducing for children at a young age is this, like, we got to ask bigger questions. We got to solve these problems, not just leave them for the next generation and just accept it as it is. Whenever you bring up the problems with government or the structure of our society, authoritarian society, people are like,
yeah, but what are we going to do? Everything's going to go to shit if we didn't have government. Like they're instantly fearing for the next year or two of their own personal life instead of thinking about the big picture and what about everybody else and what about what really fucking matters, you know? And those are the questions that weren't instilled in us when we were young, when we should be learning to think about actually spirituality. You know, I talked about the mental and the physical problems we see in this world, but the spiritual problem is the biggest one of all. It's that most people I've ever talked to think that spirituality is religion and religion is spirituality, and that only belongs in Christianity or Buddhism or one of these typical cultural religions. And then they just sort of push it in those compartments instead of recognizing that, what are we here to do? What is this life for? Who are you? Why are you here? You know, like the biggest and hardest questions are the very most important, because if you don't build the foundation of knowledge, of principle, of what is real about this, then you could live your whole life just drifting from one thing to another and never making any firm decisions and being compliant and pushed around by whims and emotions, losing your temper, having bad relationships with people. But if someone actually invests from a young age in knowing themselves and trying to understand what this world around us is, why we're here, it forces one to deal with relationship problems because they become super obvious. It forces one to ask the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the purpose behind it? You know, why am I spending 50% of my life just driving a car back and forth between a place and allowing 30 to 50% of all my energy and time going into some structure that I don't even really agree with, that's probably bombing and killing children? You know, like, at what point do we ask these questions and start thinking about the impact of that on future humans? Because we are all interconnected, and anyone that tries to separate themselves and be like, oh, I'm just my own little self, let me see you do that all alone in Antarctica, you know, in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere. You're nothing without your connection to other humans. And we need each other, right? And so we also need to kind of like have the ability to look at the big picture. And that's really what all spirituality is looking at the bigger picture. You know, what is real outside of just the physical material outcomes of what just happened, you know, is where I think most people are living their life in a reactionary and just dealing with what's in the moment physically based on what just happened and how I feel about it, but not actually understanding the structure of it and the context, which is the most important thing. So, you know, in terms of where do we go from here, we start educating ourselves and one another. And that does, one great way to do that right now is through this technology, because we can reach a lot of people. So work on educating other people. And when you teach, you learn. And if you make mistakes, you re-educate. You know, you explain where you made a mistake, you use some humility and say, you know what, I was talking about this and this, turns out I wasn't the expert on that, I just learned this. Actually, people will like you better if you have that real human to human person, and you teach something straight from your heart to someone else's heart and admit when you're wrong. You don't have to know it all to start teaching. The sooner you start teaching, the sooner you start learning. So that's my advice to people, what to take away from this argument. And I'd pass it off to anyone else if you want to, you know, end with a takeaway, something that people can grab a hold of. I'd appreciate to hear some of those things.
Cool. Well, I can add something, Chris, kind of to what everybody's saying. I'm just looking at my notes, and it might tie in perfect to kind of wrap up what we were, at least what we were talking about. And so what I would say is that we should be demanding more of each other and ourselves. You know, we have to strive to be the best. You have to strive to be the best in whatever you do, and do it to your absolute best of your abilities. And to work to be the best you is so important. You have to do the hard work on yourself. I just think that's so important, and something a lot of people lack is they're not doing the work on themselves. And I would also say, don't settle in your life. A lot of people you hear settling, and I just think that that's such an, I just never want to be that way. I just don't ever want to be it. So please don't settle in your life, And if you like, I just think if you hate your mediocre job, you can change that. You can do the work and change that. If you're out of shape, or whatever, you can start getting healthy. These are all things that you can do, and you don't have to accept. And don't just be mediocre, because you're so much greater than that. Like, I mean, it's like you guys are saying, we need to start striving and not just accepting this mediocrity. So I would end with that to do the work on yourself and really start striving, because you're great. Everybody, we have some great potential. So I'd end with that.
Right on, Rick. And yeah, Chris, and everyone else, obviously, but yeah, just stemming off what you said about technology and how we have so many mediums to learn all these things, and it touched on my train of thought of trying to tie in my last concluding remarks on all this stuff, and how it's sad that people think that they're not mediocre just because the level of technology is so great, and oh, there's even like transhumanism, people want to fall into that, and there's just the tendency for people to lean on the easy button, or just take a pill to remedy something hella easy. Like, shit don't really fucking work like that in the real reality of things, as we all know. And especially if the Hegelian dialectics of problem, reaction, solution, then yeah, folks really need to take heed to that. But yeah, I've just noticed that the human consciousness is not parallel with the level of technology, really, as far as like the mainstream population goes. There are people that have superseded the technology even, but yeah, it's a shame that people can just easily sit on their fucking ass and let AI speak to AI, be like, hey, make this for me, write this for me, all that stuff right now. How fucking mediocre is that going to be? I saw recently, just to see out of curiosity, I don't know if you've seen, someone put out like almost an hour long George Carlin AI, like what would George Carlin be saying in 2024 comedy sketch. Like, it was a whole AI written type of thing with his AI voice type of thing, with all the algorithms plugged in to get the George Carlin perspective. Although it was lacking the soul, first and fucking foremost, that should be the most obvious thing. But it just seemed like it's not the same. And I don't know where I was going with that, but just to bring it back to Jerry, what you were saying as well, man, and I feel you at the same time. I've been in places where looking over my whole entire life, like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just something in a shell, kind of living vicariously through things that I see through television and all this stuff. And like, who am I really? What is my fucking purpose? And people really need to find the tools to break out of that shell, and that comes from within. So what did I want to say? Yeah, as far as the whole degradation of things that are so great, and how they've kind of fallen into obscurity and mediocrity, whatever, for me that also represents that poem, Rage Against the Dying of the Light. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, right? No? Rage Against the Dying of the Light. Well, just think about, just internalize, or think about the lights, that eternal life force, energy, knowledge. Imagine that dying. Imagine that being manifested, and us being able to have that shit available, and people are fucking squandering the opportunity and fucking creating death within them fucking selves. And we're not going to be the light bearers and holders and hold that shit upright as we fucking should. And I see the light as pure source energy, knowledge, and all that stuff. And degraded down to where the fuck we're at right now. We cannot let it get past the current state. It's fucking absurd, the level of consciousness of the average human being. This is unacceptable. We cannot progress where we need to be on the proper Earth timeline at this fucking rate. So that's just my call out to people to level the fuck up. And that's it. Self-examination, shadow work, inner work, all that shit. I do my own part every single time. Every work I put out in public, I try to review it when I have time and realize like any errors and all that stuff, be humble about it, humble myself, and come back more correct. And people can, apply that to any form and way of life. I'm sure you brothers have as well, right? A lot of folks out there listening as well. So yeah. Bonsoir.
Sounds like you're talking about that everlasting lamp. But real quick, I'm gonna be short. I equated mediocrity to being average. So what I see, the average person who claims to be awake, claims to know what's going on, is they're not taking action. They are not getting involved. They are not getting on the battlefield. And like Jerry said, this is a war. The war is not just, going on within you, the schism, within you that you have to win, but the war that's spilling over into, health, the physical world, health and mind control, and all the things that we are under attack on. You could just be yourself. You don't have to be great right then and there, but you can strive to be great. But if you stay average, stay in the realm of comfort, stay being a coward, staying on the sidelines cheerleading, you're going to do more harm than good. And the truth can use more voices. We can use more voices. The great work can use more voices. And jump on the battlefield and just do it because it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. So I'll close on that.
It's a good ending. I think I got everybody muted. If you want to say something, let me know. Any last words? Jim?
Who's interested? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, if there's anyone out there who's interested in becoming more and more mediocre, then you can follow the work of, there's a famous philosopher called Mediocrities, and you can check him out. That's about it.
Thou shalt not be lazy. Thou shalt get off thy ass and get some great work done. Thanks, folks, for checking out the One Great Work Warriors. And we're going to have a live roundtable on the following week after this is played. So next Thursday. And we're going to talk about this same topic live. So everybody's welcome to come join. That's always an opportunity to get out there and start doing this great work yourself, is to come on to my show or come on to someone else's show and give it a shot, And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can start doing your own thing and or joining up with other people. So there's your olive branch. And here's your ticket to a better world. You got to choose. You got to make the choice, make the sacrifice, and do the hard work. Thanks for joining us, folks.
I'm in a cage, I'm in a prison, I'm in a mental prison, and a physical one at that, and definitely a spiritual one, whether that's recognized at a conscious level or not.
As I wait formlessly, the situation's got me thinking deep. Will the earth the same? If all life is in extinction, evil creeps in your dreams. Secret in-betweens. Mind control for the teens. Now they got you on your knees. I'm making my way through this open maze, but I'm dazed by mass confusion. All the images that they're using.
There's the rat race to the tip of the top of the pyramid. The pyramid.
Giving up our free will and falling in, to this low level of spiritual awareness, such that these methods can have any effect over us.
Hello, this is